Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the fifth installment of the Responsible Conduct of Research workshop. This time we have someone new presenting, but he came highly recommended from Dr. Fleisler, Dr. Sri Ramachandra Rao. And he's going to be talking about conflicts of commitment and conflicts of interest. And because of the raving uh, uh, basically the rave that Dr. Fleisler talked about with this definitely excellent professor. I know it's going to be an excellent workshop. So thank you very much. And do want to remind everyone that if you're doing the micro credentials, that there's going to be another assignment. So I will touch base with you if I feel that you're a little behind or whatnot. And if you're not, that's perfectly fine. That's wonderful. And we have one more installment next week. And it has to do with Dr. Elkin, Dr. Peter Elkin, and he's going to be talking about data management and protective data management. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ramachandra Rao, and he's going to talk about conflicts of commitment and conflicts of interest. Just want to remind you, if you have a question, feel free to unmute, and you can also put them in the chat, and I will be happy to give them to Dr. Rao. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I really appreciate it. I am Sriganesh Rao. I just go by Sri, so I can make everybody's life easy. I'll be talking to you all today about conflicts of interest and commitment, how the university recognizes these and manages the conflict of commitments and interests in order to make sure that the research conducted in the university reaches the highest standards of objectivity. I am a new faculty member here at UB in the Department of Ophthalmology. I did my graduate training and postdoctoral training here at UB, and I have also assisted in moderating this RCR workshop series for the last 4 to 5 years. And I have had the luck of sitting through these courses several times before. And today I will actually be filling in for Dr. Mulchand Patel, who is in the Department of Biochemistry, and he is the Associate Dean for Research and Biomedical Education. So this lecture is something that Dr. Patel delivers every year, but this year I'm just standing in for him. In the middle of this presentation, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to stop me, and I would be more than happy to discuss your questions. So I do not have any conflicts of interest in the presentation of this material. What do I mean by this? The outline for this presentation is we're going to talk about conflicts of interest and commitments. What does the word conflict mean? When conflict itself is, it's got two Greek words. One is con, the other is flict. When two interests come together and strike against each other, you have a conflict of interest. Same with commitment of time. And the university and the School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences has its own sets of policies to deal with situations where there is a conflict of interest or commitment for faculty and staff. We will go over how faculty and staff are supposed to disclose their financial interests to the institute, how the institute, that is UB, monitors and evaluates conflicts of interest on a case-by-case basis. We'll go over some case studies, and I'll be very happy to take questions at the end of the talk again. Okay, so the information that I'm going to present today is based on institutional policies, that of specifically the School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences and that of the university. Some of this information can also be obtained from outside sources. Most universities have similar standing principles. So this information can also be found, let's say, in U of Michigan website, Stanford University, Northwestern University, and others. But what we are going to discuss today, for the most part, is UB policies and how UB handles cases of conflicts of interest and commitment. What is a conflict of commitment? This is the easier thing to deal with. So let's first talk about conflict of commitment. When uh, the faculty or staff have outside activities that they are pursuing, extracurricular activities, which are in parallel to their research efforts or directly affiliated to their research efforts. And that would require the faculty or staff to invest their time outside of the university. Now, if there is inordinate investment of time, now that becomes a conflict of commitment. How does the university deal with that kind of a scenario? It's usually easy. Some common conflicts of commitment that we would encounter is essentially consulting, where a faculty member whose full-time commitment is towards the university, school, or the department, but given their world-class expertise, they might be hired as consultants for external pay for this activity. Uh, and that requires the PI or the staff then to set aside some time in doing this consultancy line of work. Since this is related to time, uh, it is much easier to deal with, usually by working on how much of commitment a PI can put into, what percentage of effort a PI can put into these different activities. This is usually a lot easier to deal with. Now we will actually start getting into the grayer zones, which is the conflict of interest. Now here, it's not just time, but it's also financial and other considerations, such as your familial affiliation to other corporations, which may compromise, one, your objectivity in the way you conduct the research in your laboratory, or even if uh, given your relationship with a certain external source and that source directly funding your research, even though you are operating completely objectively, for a third party disinterested person, that might appear or potentially seem like a conflict of interest where the outcomes of the study could be compromised, because how do you know the person acting is working objectively, right? So the university does not want these black marks. They want to make sure at all time that the research that is being conducted is in alignment with the missions of the university, meets the highest standards of objectivity and scientific quality. So the university obviously has its due responsibility in making sure that the activities that are happening within the university are completely aligned with the missions of the university and not towards personal or familial benefits. So why did I use the word potential? Uh, for one, if you remember the lecture series from Dr. Fleisler's workshops, he mentioned that science is a business that stands on trust. University runs on public trust. So it is extremely important then that people who are affiliated to the university, employed by the university, by that I mean the faculty and staff, uh, are answerable to the public and need to make sure that the research and all other activities that happen in university are happening without even a potential or appearance of bias. In order to do that, if an employee simply discloses all of the external ties that they may have with outside agencies, extra university agencies, say companies or foundations, then steps can be taken by the university to make sure that uh, there is no bias by the employee who is benefited by this potential conflict. Um, and also, it has to be remembered at all times that the goal of the university is to ensure that you are given all the opportunities and are encouraged to take these outside opportunities, but in the meantime, do it in a transparent way such that the university can keep a tab of potential conflicts of interest and take the essential actions to remove the chances of bias. Now, here is an example. If an employee accepts a gift from, let's say, an organization uh, or an individual outside of UB, and then acts uh, claiming that the decision is unbiased, it is really hard for anyone to buy that. So even the appearance of bias can create a potential conflict of interest. So, as I mentioned, why is this important? Especially a state university such as UB, right? Where the general public invests and places trust. It is extremely important then that we can give the public, the taxpayer, the receipt that this is what we have done. So it is extremely important to act in a way that earns public confidence and trust and aligns with the university's missions. And one of those actions that needs to start from the faculty and staff's end is to, one, recognize, and two, disclose all potential conflicts of interests and commitments. Now, these are the various sources that will provide you information about the university policy towards conflicts of interest and conflicts of commitment. You need to disclose your COI annually in order to be funded, in order to conduct any funded or unfunded human subject research. So you can feel free to browse these three links and get essentially the gist of all the information I'm about to give you on these websites. Okay, what are some of the key principles involved in this? The expectation from the university side is that all faculty and staff members act with honesty and integrity, work in the best interest of science and also the institute, ensure that always the highest standards of research integrity and objectivity is always maintained. But just the chance that there is a potential COI or COC does not mean that one cannot establish outside relationships or perform and engage in extra university activities. In fact, the university encourages that. But it has to be done in a transparent, disclosed manner. So, because of this commitment, where the university wants you to commit to all these activities, but also it creates these potential COIs and COCs. So, though this really applies for faculty and staff who are not just part-time but full-time, but even those who are working at the university on part-time basis must complete their conflict of interest and conflict of commitment declaration. They must commit commensurate time and intellectual energy to support and enhance the UB mission despite the outside commitment. Again, if it's a part-time faculty or staff, depending on their commitment towards the university can take a call on what is acceptable and what is not. This is extremely important. As JSMBS faculty or staff, you cannot use your official position or influence your title to further your personal gain and advancement. Not just personal, it's also familial gains. This is against the UB policy. And we will discuss several cases hypothetical cases, of course, where a lot of gray area can be found. Okay, the first most important the on the side of the faculty and staff is the disclosure of all potential conflicts of interest and commitments. Um, then the university will evaluate the potential conflicts, and if those conflicts, based on what has been declared by the uh, faculty or staff, if those conflicts are found to be significant, then it's the university's responsibility to then devise a plan to manage around that conflict and ensure that the task is performed while in alignment with UB's missions and policies. So when sponsored research or technology transfer is involved, a faculty member must disclose potential COIs and COCs. In fact, uh, the university sends out through its offices uh, a reminder every November to complete your conflict of interest and conflicts of commitment to your best knowledge. But it's also the responsibility of faculty and staff to disclose the COI and COCs appropriately as and when they occur. It has to be done annually, but during the course of the year, if new conflicts of interest, potential conflicts of interest are found, they have to be disclosed. Uh, Also, it is extremely important to make sure that the faculty and staff do not abuse or misuse the university resources um, for, again, personal gains and familial gains. This, again, is not limited to just facilities, personal students' equipment, and also confidential information that you may be generating through your research. Okay, so now, so far we discussed the requirement of disclosure on the side of the faculty or staff. Now let's see what the evaluation of these potential conflicts look like. So it's the full responsibility of the faculty or staff for accurate and complete reporting. What do I mean by accurate? You can't, if you are, let us say, paid an amount X for consulting for a certain company, you have to be accurate. Yeah, you can't just give a round number, because there are certain cutoffs beyond which something could be considered a significant conflict versus not a significant conflict. So accurate and complete reporting is extremely important on the side of faculty and staff. You need to disclose your and your family's financial interests or relationships with sponsors or vendors. You need to disclose your ownership or investments in outside business. You must disclose your employment outside of UB, if any. You have to disclose if you have received an honoraria or travel support. Now, we can think of several examples where if you don't do any of these, there can be uh, potential conflicts of interest. Now, let's say, for example, my cousin, yeah, hypothetical cousin, is the chief sales manager for air gas company in Western New York region. Yeah. And I somehow am in a position to make decisions as to where UB strikes a deal for its gas supplies for the next 3 years. Now, if I do not disclose my potential conflict of interest accurately and completely at the time of reporting, and if I am serving on the committee which would be involved in the decision-making process for acquiring a certain service for the university. You see how a third person, even though I may argue that I am acting completely objectively towards the missions of UB, how a third party might find it extremely dubious. So this is why even a potential COI is taken extremely seriously. And it is extremely important to disclose not just yours, but also your family's financial interests and relationships to the most accurate and complete way possible. Once all of these, so this is the responsibility on the side of faculty and staff. What UB does on its side is the dean's office has a designate who evaluates all potential COIs and COCs that are logged. Now, these conflicts of interest and conflicts of commitments are logged in a central click system. Okay? The dean's designate at JSMBS is the Associate Dean for Research and Biomedical Education, Professor Mulchand Patel. So he evaluates the potential COIs and COCs for all the declarations. And if the university notes a specific conflict of interest for a case, then the designate office develops plan to manage and mitigate these potential COIs and COCs. The university is also involved in the administering the policy. Once these COIs have been noted, and once a potential plan has been devised to manage these conflicts of interest, then the university is also obviously responsible for administering the policy and those plans. And that is done through the Office of Compliance, which is run by UB. Okay. Now, if you lack full disclosure, as I just gave a hypothetical example earlier, it can give rise to a lot of difficult situations down the line, both for the PI involved and the university. Okay. Disclosing. Just went over this. This is how this is managed by a central click system. You get, am I still audible, Catherine? Just making sure. My headphone just got disconnected for a second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So there is a click system which maintains all of the COI and COCs, and the system sends a reminder to all faculties and staff annually once in November to update their COI or COC records, and it's maintained confidentially, and these records are used to resolving any disputes of COI, and the lack of transparent declarations can potentially be used for handling policy violations at a later time point if such a scenario occurs. Is everything clear so far? Do anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask me. If not, we can just keep moving through the slides.
No questions in chat thus far.
All right. I'm
I
assuming.
I
Go ahead.
actually do have one, sorry. Back on the slide where it's the potential, um, yes, that one, the ownership or investments in outside business, would that apply to the family as well? So like
Yes.
if an individual spouse
Yes.
owns a company, that
Yes. I
person
mean,
would need to
let's
disclose.
just take a simple example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say my hypothetical spouse runs a hypothetical food truck.
Okay.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the research I do,
Right.
right? But you still have to disclose it.
Okay.
Just disclose it. Just be transparent.
Perfect.
Because it's a business that's been owned by your your family member, right?
Mhm.
And you getting your funding from NIH or NSF or through any private foundations, has nothing to do with that. But what if there was a thought about having a new food court in the university? Yeah. And you are wondering who should run their merchandises in the food area, right? Now, if I did not declare my COI and I just happily jumped on this committee which makes decisions about the food court, you see how now I can abuse my position. To this is exactly why transparent and complete reporting is important, because it can be a potential conflict of interest.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, from the point of view of a faculty or staff, the easiest and the most worry-free path to take is to just disclose in a timely, accurate, and complete manner, right? Only if all of those potential become an actual significant conflict of interest, a plan will be devised by the institute to ensure that your objectivity is not quote unquote eclipsed. Pardon the pun. But you have to do it at least once annually. It's required, it's mandatory that you declare. But let's say you declared your COI in November, and sometime in March, you acquired a new COI. Let us say you bought stocks in Johnson and Johnson, yeah, for $50,000 because you think there is a new product that's out there that can largely. You just declare that you have this large stock. If at a later time point your lab is actually very interested in running experiments using that product, now you see how your personal investment into that actually is a conflict of interest. So, as and when you acquire new conflicts of interest, you have to keep updating it. But if you don't have an update, you still have to do it once annually anyway. All right. There has to be a disclosure by investigators of significant financial interest, and this depends on outside salary sources and how big that salary is. And the university will take a call in such cases. So the official designated by the dean, the responsible official, they would essentially either form a committee and then discuss what the conflicts of interest can be. And if there is a direct conflict that is noted, let us assume, let me think of a different case. Okay, let's say there's a pharma company. Let's go back to Johnson and Johnson. Johnson and Johnson has a gene therapy strategy, and you want to adapt that. You want to try that in your lab, and they are willing to fund you for this research. Johnson and Johnson is willing to fund your lab to do this line of study. Now, it's obviously a conflict of interest because you are getting funded by the company, and you cannot act objectively. So there can be others around the project who have the expertise, who have the knowledge of the project, who can do oversight of the project to make sure that there is no actions that is being taken by the PI. So you can either have a standard management plan where you can monitor it every 6 months, or you can have active monitoring by having disinterested members on the team itself. Okay? Even if you have an indirect conflict, such as conflict of commitment, right? That is not a direct conflict of interest. You have a conflict of commitment. The university can still develop management plans. For example, let us say if you have a direct conflict and let's say I'm the department chair. I'm the hypothetical department chair. And you can't have a management plan where someone um, lower in the hierarchy, in the academic hierarchy, is actually trying to do the oversight for the project, because I will have unfair leverage over their career progression, right? So the university takes into consideration all these factors and comes up with appropriate management plans with appropriate oversight in order to ensure that there is always objectivity uh, in the project. Okay, now the faculty or staff have uh, duly submitted uh, in a transparent manner all their potential COIs, and now I have a potential funding source from company X. But if the university notices that already in my in my declaration of conflicts of interest, I have already I have already declared that company is giving me this compensation, then the university already has a log, right? So when I go in for a grant from this company, the university says, hang on, your disclosure says that your conflicts of interest are this. Yeah, you have a personal compensation for this and this. Within the these are your other conflicts of interest, X and Y and Z. This is how we expect you will manage your conflict of interest. Now, if you don't have any interest, you can simply write and say that there is no direct or indirect FCOI. Yeah, but you still have to disclose in writing what kind of travel, what kind of support you have received, etc. You can eventually develop you can get a consent form from the university to go ahead and do the business you need to, assuming there is no conflict. But if there is a significant interest, both paid and unpaid, what do I mean by unpaid? Let's say you are on the board of directors for a company, or you are a consultant, yeah, with insights into confidential information. Now you'll have to restrict yourselves from either, let's say, patient recruitment or final interpretation of the results. So what the university would do is it will have other investigators on the team which can handle these tasks in an objective manner. It's not that the university does not trust you to be objective. It's just that you don't even want to have the likelihood of something being performed without objectivity and honesty. And it's extremely important to disclose your financial interests in all relevant publications and presentations, right? And nobody from the company can ghostwrite the publications. It has to be you. Now, this is what a letter would look like if there is an indirect conflict. Dear daughter XYZ, I'm in the process of reviewing your funded or unfunded project for any possible conflict of interest. It is funded by this particular sponsor. Do you have any overlap or any indirect FCOI between your study supported by the company and your interactions with them? Are you using any drugs or devices by the company? You have to disclose everything, right? If there is no conflict of interest, then you state that there is no conflict of interest. Okay. Now, we will get into mechanisms which almost always leads to a significant conflict of interest, which is these grant avenues that are available for turning your science to product, for commercializing your science. And these are called SBIR grants or STTR grants. Various federal agencies provide funding to small businesses to support research and development with the potential of commercialization. Yeah, they are typically made to small businesses which have less than 500 employees. But usually the small, if in the SBIR grants, there is a small catch. There is a small difference between SBIR and STTR. Okay. Now in SBIR, you don't need a research institution or a university like UB to be involved, meaning the federal government can directly fund small businesses. But usually what happens is these small business companies often collaborate with research institutes. Despite the fact that RIs are not required, universities need not be on SBIR, but they often are. In case of the STARE grants, the STTR grants, now here there is an active collaboration between a small business company and a university. Yeah. But for these grants, there have to be two PIs. One on the side of the small business, the other on the side of the PI. Things can start becoming extremely hairy if the PI has started an LLC while as a faculty in the university and now is planning on applying for STTR grants, because you can't be a PI on both the business end of it and the research enterprise end of it. Yeah? So these are some of the eligibility requirements. The SBC must be independently operated, not by the same person, not by the same PI who is also running the lab in the university. It must be independently operated. It must be a for-profit business. That is because we are trying to commercialize the science. Yeah. Or if there are subcontracts awarded, the small business still has to do. Now the subcontract can go to the university. Yeah. Now the small business has to do the majority of the research. Yeah. If there is a collaborating PI in the university, they are not allowed to do the major part of the research, because this is the SBIRs are grants for small businesses, not for RIs, research institutes. Yeah? The PI should be primarily employed by the small business. The involvement of the research institute is not required, but the research institute can have a subcontract. But if the research institute has a subcontract, then there are limitations for how much research the research institute can conduct on behalf of the small business. Is this clear so far? Okay. Now, for the STARE grants, these are the eligibility requirements. Again, the small business is independently operated. It has to be for profit. The SPCPI can be primarily employed either by the small business or by the collaborating research institute. Is 30% of research may conduct up to 60% of the research on research and development. This also, again, this is very difficult, because this can also become a conflict of commitment, because here we are also talking about time. So in case in some of these grants, if the time commitment of the PI exceeds what they can do, then one of the options is they can reduce their employment with the university in order to make sure that the efforts are not over accounted for. So the PI can be primarily employed by either the small business or the university in this case. but there are still restrictions for the use of university resources. If the faculty who is on the STAIR grant plan on involving students and postdocs in this activity of this new startup company, then each of the students and postdocs now have individual conflicts of interests, because now they are also a part of a company. They are working for a company while they have their direct vested interests in the missions of the university, right? So every individual will now have to declare or update their conflict of interest. This is, again, the university actually wants this to happen. The university is very encouraging of this because it's extremely beneficial for the development of the trainee, but it's also important for the university to make sure that it is not interfering with their training or academic progress. So usually when it is students or postdocs that are involved, they can have a management plan for the conflicts of interest for those staffs, where let's say some unrelated faculty member to the project or the thesis committee member can actually ensure that this other conflicting activity does not interfere with their training, academic progress, or objective performance of their scientific missions. Okay. Now, conflicts of interest are obviously more frequent in a large university system such as UB. Therefore, UB is also extremely sensitive and highlights the importance through these workshop series, the responsibilities of the faculties. And the goal is to reduce even what can be perceived as conflict. It's always better to err on the side of caution, and it's always better to just be completely transparent and disclose everything you have, rather than under disclose and then get both yourself and the university in some murky waters. Okay. Now, how will we do this? I have a few case study questions. I'll just read out the questions, and anyone can volunteer to interact and answer these questions, or Catherine will help me in finding some people to interact with me.
Absolutely. Well, if they type them into the chat, then I'll be happy to read them for them.
All right. Are we still on time? Yeah, well ahead of time. Okay. Let's see. The first question. Dr. XY serves on the board of directors for a non-profit foundation, and she is unpaid for her services. Dr. XY also receives grant support for development of educational activities for the foundation. The first question is, should Dr. XY list her involvement with the foundation on her annual disclosure? 2, would you require a management plan for her grant activities? If yes, why? If no, why?
Okay, so what does everybody think? Should Dr. XY list her involvement with the foundation on her annual disclosure? Feel free to type it in the chat or go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, just unmute yourselves.
I'd say, could you guys hear me? My internet's been tripping out.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'd say yes, she has to disclose it, regardless of if it's an unpaid activity.
That is right. And what do you think about requiring a management plan?
So I don't think they require a management plan in this case, since it's an unpaid one, but I'm not necessarily sure if that is, because I kind of chipped out at that point, but it also depends on her time. So like, depends on the time that she puts into the foundation. I think it becomes more of a conflict of her time than a conflict of interest, like a financial conflict of interest. But I'd say no to the management.
The answer is right. the second part, there is not enough details in the question to answer in completeness. As for the first part, right, should Dr. XY list her involvement with the foundation as unpaid activity on her annual disclosure? The answer is an astounding yes, right? Because it can lead to a potential conflict sometime later down the line. So the answer for first question is yes. And you don't get named a board of director without having any expertise. And these unpaid activities can lead to a future paid conflict of interest. Okay. So the answer for first question is yes. The answer for the second question, it really would depend on the nature of her services to the foundation as a board of director, and also her expertise. If she is an educator and if she is being funded for the development of educational activities, let us say this person is from the Department of Education. Yeah, it's the same as someone working in Department of Pharmacology and being funded by a therapeutic company, right? Because if the wanted end goals are very clearly defined, then it can become there can be a challenge on the objectivity. So again, as a case-to-case basis, if required, then the university can always create a management team for that particular activity.
Excellent. Thank you. And a lot of other people who answered very similarly. Didn't think it needed to be managed, but we wouldn't be determining if it was managed. The university would, correct?
Yes, the university always determines the management.
Excellent. Thank you.
As far as the faculty and staff, this is, if there is one thing I need all of you to take away from this, your responsibility is to declare compulsorily annually and as and when it appears. In fact, if you go to the website, the earlier links that I described, and read UB's policies, you have to declare any new potential of conflict of interest within 30 days. Such a conflict of interest has taken place, right? If you acquired a business or started a company or acquired stock in a certain pharmaceutical company or X or Y or Z, you have to declare it within 30 days of acquiring that. Yeah. Once you do that, it's in a central repository, it is stored away. And as and when your grant applications or your activities comes through, then the university will check against your disclosed conflicts of interest. And if anything appears like there is a potential COI, the university will take the next steps and install a management plan if required.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Disclose. That's the most important thing.
Yes. All right. Question 2. A clinical faculty investigator at a med school is also employed as a part-time member at an institute conducting research. A pharma company developed an agreement with the institute to make presentations on the company's behalf. This member of the institute made presentations in programs sponsored by this pharma company. The institute received payments from the pharma company as per agreement, and the participating member was paid extra compensation for his participation by the institute. Should the participating member disclose his payments as paid service by the pharma company? Why?
Okay, so who would like to answer this one, or go ahead and put it in the chat? What do you think?
So,
oh, go ahead.
I would definitely say he needs to disclose, given the number of things going on here. You know, there's the agreement, there's the pay that involve the payments for service, the presentations in the programs, and just the other payments that were received. So he definitely needs to be transparent with all of that on his COI. And I definitely feel like this is
so
something.
What are the two things Madison, that you think the faculty here has to disclose?
I think it'd be the agreement and the paid services.
Yes. One, the fact that they're also working part-time at a different institute, right?
Yes.
And the other is that they have been paid by a third-party pharma company, right?
Yes.
Now, if you are the university, if you are Dr. Mulchand Patel's office, the way you would look at it is, okay, there are both parties now. There is this institute, and also you are being paid as service. So it will log it. Yes, they should disclose both the payments, but at a future time point, if it comes that this faculty or investigator is being funded either by the pharma company, right? If
Mm.
if the if the faculty was funded by the pharma company without having received this payment or giving this talk on behalf of the other institute, then it's like any other. There wouldn't be any conflict of interest, right? But now that he or she has received payment from a pharma company, it is extremely important to disclose this because in the future it may be a potential conflict.
Yes.
Do we have any other responses, Catherine?
We do. Yes, we have, yes, he would need to disclose his paid service. The next one is yes, he should disclose paid service as there could potentially be overlap between medical research at the school and the pharma company. And someone else mentioned he should disclose the payment as well as the use of his time.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, there's a question. And it is this an example of an indirect conflict since the institute seems to be involved with the company as well?
As far as UB is considered, you can look at it as two separate or related interactions, but because there has been a direct payment made to the faculty by the pharma company, right? There is nothing indirect about at that point. That is a direct COI. Especially, it is definitely a COI. It becomes a direct COI if the payment was large enough, right? Let us say they just gave an honoraria. If you went to a university and gave a talk and you received an honoraria of $120 plus a meal, right? That is not considered a conflict. But if you went and gave a talk at Genentech for $50,000, right? And at a later point, Genentech is planning on funding your research, the way that would be looked at is very different, right? So again, conflict of commitment is also another thing that should be disclosed. So the answers are
Great.
all right.
Excellent. The statement was understood. Thank you.
All right. Question number 3. A university faculty member, Dr. AB, and his colleagues jointly formed a company to develop a software to collect patient-based information for evaluation. An SBIR grant was awarded to this company, and a subcontract was given to Dr. AB, who employed his son for a period of 3 months to perform data collections for the charts. The first question is, was it appropriate for Dr. AB to employ his son on this subcontract? Why? Would it be all right to employ his son on the SBIR grant to perform this task? Why?
Okay, what does everybody think? Anybody wants to answer either out loud or in the chats? I might still be reading this one. It's a little weighty.
So we have to, again, think about how SBIR grants are done. It is actually provided to a small business. It's primarily a small business grant, which can happen in collaboration with a research institute as a subcontract. So now this company has given a subcontract to Dr. AB, who has now employed his son to perform whatever for this project for 3 months, right? So Dr. AB essentially has taken money from the SBIR grant and employed his own son on the project. Is this ethical?
Any comments?
Anyone?
That's what I was going to say. I was wondering, is it ethical to actually employ his son? Because I don't think it is.
You cannot employ family. That is actually UB policy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you cannot employ
Okay.
family.
Even if the son has appropriate skills,
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. So who is to say that the son does not have the whatever the job requirements are, right? So being the PI's son should actually not disqualify the person from getting the job. So what the university would have to do then is set up a separate hiring committee, which would actually call for the position and maybe interview and check for the fit and independently hire Dr. AB's son into the project, while Dr. AB himself or herself don't have the decision-making ability as to whether they can hire their own son or not.
what if the son is also a faculty member?
If the son is also a faculty member, then the son would have their own personal COI that has been submitted, right? So then the son the other person being faculty, the son being faculty is the it's the driving factor. That person being Dr. AB's son is not relevant, because Dr. AB as a faculty cannot hire another faculty, right? That faculty has been hired through proper university means, and Dr. AB's son has their own COI, the declared COI. So if the son was on faculty, this is a straightforward question of just what the son's commitment would be towards the subcontract. Dr. AB would not have much role to play.
Excellent. We have a few comments, and one of them is that someone thinks that nepotism could be a concern.
Nepotism is always a concern. And
yes, another one believed that unless his son was the most qualified person interviewed for the task, and of course, Dr. AB would not be the one doing the interview process.
Yes, which is why there is a management plan.
Yes. If they exhausted every other option and no one else was qualified, I think it would still be something that would need to be brought up to the COI committee or a chair to ask permission first. And we said that Dr. AB wouldn't be doing the interview process in the first place. So someone else will be taking care of that.
Yes.
Great. They did a great job.
All right. All right, 2 more questions and we'll be done. A new company has just been formed and 5 university employees either have board positions and or hold equity. Would you, A, create a separate COI management for each employee, or would you just create one plan and name all the university employees who are affiliated with it? What would you do?
Feel free to look this over and either unmute or go ahead and type it in the chat.
We haven't heard from, let's say, Amanda Klein.
Create a separate management plan for each employee. I would think, I don't know how else you would do this without doing it individually.
The answer
I guess that's my first gut reaction, is I don't know how you could just have a blanket management plan. But I could be wrong.
COI is always personalized, because although there are 5 university employees, they all have different conflicts. One could be a board of directors, the other could be a consultant, other could just have some equity shares, right? And also their roles in the project could be very different. So each individual has separate conflicts. So you need 5 different management plans for each employee associated with this project. So Amanda is right.
Amanda, thank you for answering that. And a lot of people wrote, if each case is unique, then a different COI is needed for each person. They should each receive separate COI management plans that would be tailored to their positions on the board or the amount of equity they have. Good. I believe A, since everyone needs to disclose annually anyway, or obviously as new things come up, and probably create 5 separate plans, assuming each person has a different expertise and different faculty commitments. So lots of separates.
Actually, there is no question of if, it's always separate.
Got it. Great.
So that answer is completely right, except for the first use of the word if, because there are no conditions apply there. Okay. The last question. It has come to your attention that a department chair has a company based on technology he developed at the university, and that has been licensed by the university to the company. The co-founder of the company is a fellow researcher who is the chair's subordinate. In addition, they have given equity in their new company to 3 other department employees, all of whom are subordinate to the fellow researcher. The research is ongoing and continues to be funded by multiple sponsors. Would you approve a chair and his subordinate both having the same COI? If so, what elements would be included in a management plan, and who would oversee the plan? How would you management 3 department employees FCOI?
We have this also calls for separate plans.
Mm-hmm.
So we're separating the plans for sure, which I think has pretty much been the crux of the entire presentation. Definitely disclose as they come up, yearly as they come up, and separately. So are you doing the second part now? What elements would be included in the management plan and who would oversee the plan?
Yes. Actually, the people who would constitute the oversight for this particular case would have to be either, let's say, other department chairs, because it can't be anyone from within the department. Yeah, since you're talking, this is again, this comes to academic hierarchy and this subordinate structure that we have. And if you are a junior faculty, then you will not be able to act objectively yourself trying to manage this COI, because the person you are trying to provide specific instructions to down the line can directly influence your career progression. Yeah. So in such cases, yes, there are individual conflict of interest declarations, individual management plans, and different sets of people managing different FCOIs.
Great. So we have to definitely go outside the department in order to make sure that this is
certainly
done
because we have the advantage of having a large university system. You can always find experts and colleagues from within the university who can make objective judgments about the project and its progress.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we conclude today's workshop lecture. It was a pleasure interacting with you all. If you have any further questions or comments, please feel free to email it to Catherine or Dr. Mulchand Patel, who would be the first best source to give you more specific answers to any questions that you may have, as it may apply to your own research activities at JSMBS UB. Again, always remember, disclose completely, as accurately, always.